are like the cool mom in the 80s teen movie right now.
That's right. That is right. I am the cool mom in the 80s teen movie, and I wore this for you, and the first thing you said to me this morning is, "Are you in a pajama party right now?"
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
did. I did. I as soon as when we were in the preview room, I
yeah.
said to her, "Did you have a slumber party or something?"
No, I got up, I took a shower, I went to my closet, and I said, "What shirt should I wear to make Fred happy this morning?" And I said, "I bet he's gonna love these zoo animals T-shirt that I got from the thrift store." And it's actually a men's small, but it's like made of polyester, so I'm, like, sweating. I'm sweating.
You know
It's
what? You wouldn't be sweating because I you have to decenter men from your life. That's what I've been seeing, you know?
okay. That's true, yes, I'll decenter you from my life from now on. And then I would have been wearing a nice cotton, you know, blend, and I would be really comfortable, but I wouldn't look as cool. It's also for my children, but my children are also
No, right, yeah. You gotta do it for the kids, you know? And if this were an '80s movie, I would wanna be like the sort of prop dad that just, like, they just pass by, he's always sitting on the couch, and it's just like, "All right, dad, we're going to commit a rebellion, all right, be safe, kids, have fun."
yeah.
And
Remember to yeah,
that's
remember
my
to take
only
your
line,
water, hydrate, yeah.
you
Um,
know? "All right, make sure you wear your seat belts and take your salt tablets." Like, dad used to play football, and he's never been right since, you
never
know?
been right since, and now he just reads the newspaper, but he doesn't actually read it. He just sort of like
No,
does
yeah, that's it. He's the absentee dad that's on the couch and, like,
yeah,
in every shot, like, no matter what's happening in the family, he's just got the paper up.
right,
Mm.
exactly, and then he puts it down, and then you see him, and it goes back up. So
Right,
it's a metaphor for,
you know? No, that would be great because then it's like, I just put it down and look, and then you'd go, "We don't need you, Fred. I got this." It's like and then the paper goes back up.
although I do feel like I'm really ready for the also 80s for the mall in this shirt, you know
No,
what I
you
mean?
are.
Yeah,
100%, you know?
but I read
And
recently that go ahead.
we've honestly, we gotta have a little levity today because,
Yeah, brutal day.
ugh,
So many
I knew it was man, I knew it was coming, and I was just like I was trying to tell myself, I was like, "All right, well, maybe they're looking at the tea leaves and they're seeing that Trump's finally vulnerable, that, that they're gonna break ranks and they're gonna say, no, Todd Blanche is the line. We're not doing it, and we're not gonna confirm this guy. You have
yeah,
to get a more approvable hack
yeah.
than this one,
Than
right?"
this one, who just looks like a mob speaking of 80s movies, he looks like a mob lawyer from an 80s movie. I mean, his
Yeah, he
face
does.
is like a little squished, just like that, just like that
Right.
character. Yeah.
And and then it's like and then Bill Cassidy flipped and did yeah,
Oh,
man, he did like the white man's he really did. He did like the white man's justification, "I'm gonna get flack for this, but I'm used to that." Oh, shut up, dude.
yeah,
Shut up. Stop
yeah,
it.
and,
Just
like, right, because he got is am I right that he lost his primary, right?
no, yeah, well, it's even more than that. So, like, he was one of the, senators that voted to impeach Trump for the January 6th,
Uh-huh,
and Trump's had it out for him ever since.
yeah,
And so he didn't get endorsed, he lost his primary,
right. So but
and
he has nothing to lose, he's
well,
already out. Like, why not just have a little bit of spine?
so
Like
here's my thing with that because
yeah,
reportedly and I love it when all the hacks come on and they were like, remember that closed door meeting they supposedly had like 2, 3 weeks ago, and, like, they were shouting at Trump, and he was shouting back, and,
yeah.
"Oh, is this a sign Republicans are gonna break ranks?" And then they never
No.
break ranks.
Because
Ye
it's like it's this myth that the Republicans are just following Trump. It's not Trump's agenda. This is their agenda.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
just the figurehead. And as soon as we divorce, right, um, their agenda, and if they have backbone versus his agenda, then we
Yep.
really start to understand that Trump is actually very much like a puppet in the
Mhm.
larger Republican scheme. He's not the leader. He is just the figurehead.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why, I came out, I made a quick video before we jumped on this, and I was like, John Cornyn, Tom Tillis, all these guys who, quote, "have nothing to lose." the reason they voted for it is because Todd Blanche is there for one reason, and we'll get into the abortion stuff later because like shitting on women and brutalizing them and oppressing them is part of that reason. But the one reason he really is there above all else is to protect these billionaires from the Epstein files. That's
100%.
what it is. It's to protect them from accountability. That's what Todd Blanche is there for.
And even embarrassment, not even accountability, just like embarrassment, just
Yeah.
having to answer to their families for what
Mhm.
they did. They don't even want to do that.
No.
That's a bridge too far to say I'm sorry and I'm going to look myself in the mirror. No, they're not going
Yeah.
to do that. Yeah.
No, because the thing is, how do you look yourself in the mirror when you've paid for you've paid to R word, a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's like there is no like that's not an oopsie daisy, right?
Right.
That's like, oh man, I got a little toasty and I kind of made a mistake, like I was
Yeah.
on a business trip, honey, and you know, I met Phyllis who was in corrugated steel and she just laughed at my jokes just right. And I said to hell with it, and I made a mistake and let's, let's go to therapy and try to work it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
No.
no, that's not it. Like you go to Epstein's island,
Eyelid.
that's yeah, an island. You literally get on a plane. You
Yeah.
know why you're going there. You're like, it's not like you're suddenly saying, I came here for a timeshare
I
vacation.
was planning on getting a tan and having a mimosa on the beach. No, that's not why you went there. That's
Right.
not why you funneled money into a sex trafficker's bank account.
Right.
You purposefully went there to commit acts of sexual assault on children.
Oh,
And
dude, like it was
yeah,
who was it? I can't remember if she changed her surname, but Melissa Gates, when she
mm,
got interviewed about why she left Bill, and she can't say anything because of all the freaking um probably NDAs like from here
oh,
to
she
eternity.
signed this, that, and the other
But
thing.
man, where she's just like you could see it, right? Where it's just when that revelation happened and she's like, "Oh, I'm married to that." Oh, Melinda, sorry. Thank you, Shirley. Melinda Gates.
Melinda, yeah.
Like uh when she made that revelation, when it was just like when she found out it was true, and you could literally see it on her face, like she was reliving that moment
Yeah. I mean,
and was
because it's
revulsed and disgusted by it.
yeah, and
You know?
oftentimes folks like that, they don't see each other very much. They have different arrangements in their marriage. That's fine if you wanna have an open marriage.
Yeah.
But to our word children, right?
Mhm.
That's not part of a consensual marriage agreement. And
Right.
yeah, totally, I absolutely agree that once
Yeah. There's
they
no
realized
kind of
that, he was like, "I don't care, I will burn every bridge." And, good on her. I mean, I know it would be better if she would speak out, but, you know, we all do what we can do, and she's doing a lot of good in the world for girls in particular, so we
yeah.
gotta wait.
Well, and I mean but that's the thing is that's what Todd Blanche is there to do. Todd Blanche and the thing about it, what a lot of these folks is like, well, they're out of politics. Why would they still do this? Here's the thing. Trump is an 80-year-old man with dementia and all kinds of health problems. And to your
Yeah,
point earlier, he's just a figurehead for what they want to do.
yeah.
They're already planning their next move.
Well,
I'll put another prediction out here, and you guys will be stunned, even though you shouldn't be. When he goes and MAGA collapses because it's a cult of personality and they start infighting and stabbing each other in the back and blah, 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 the never Trumpers, they'll all matriculate back over there to save the party for America. They're all going to go back and and then suddenly they're going to pick up right where they left off. And
so I wanna say 2 things. First of all, everybody's like, "Oh, they're not in politics. What do they have to lose?" Well, they all wanna sit on the boards of these corporations and just cash checks for a couple $100,000 a year for going to 4 board meetings. Who's in control of those boards? The billionaires who are in the Epstein files. So they have everything to lose.
oh, yeah.
It's a misnomer that they have nothing to lose. And the second thing is, Fred, I don't disagree with you necessarily, but I'll be curious to see because what these people want, and I'm specifically thinking of Tucker Carlson and MTG, is that they don't want to save the party and they don't want to save America. They want to make money.
Mhm.
And I'll be curious to see, right? And so how are they going to do that? They set up little fiefdoms and that they can extract wealth from. Oh my, what's happening with my computer? Right. Um, I'll finish the sentence, and I think I need to adjust my settings. But if it will be more profitable for them to go back to the GOP, that's what they'll do. But
Oh,
if
yeah.
they set up a profitable revenue source from whatever schmucks they have gotten to believe them, then they'll continue throwing arrows at the traditional GOP. So I mean, to them, it's all just a business.
Yeah.
And that's true too of corporate Democrats. But it's a different business model for the sort of GOP universe right now. So I don't
What?
know that fracture. I know, right? I don't know.
Corporate Democrats? But wait a minute. I thought it was vote blue no matter who. Like,
I
that's what they've
know.
been telling us.
I know. I
I'm
know.
shocked to find that they're not gonna follow that with, like, all these progressive and DSA and working for party's family candidates.
Yeah, it's
What?
really yeah. I mean, look, I try not to be shocked and betrayed by things anymore, but it really I'm like, I did it like, I'm the '80s mom, you know? I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. I you know
You know, I honestly, I was talking with a friend of mine about this yesterday, and he was an organizer in Northern Virginia, for a good bit. And I said, you know what's nuts to me, man, is you look at Michigan, where the turnout was 20%, about 20% higher than it was in 2020, which broke records, both
Yeah,
in
it
the
was wild.
primary and in the general election. You would and the Democrats had 500,000 more
Thousand.
votes cast than the frick I mean, significant.
That in a primary, that is insane.
Insane.
That is the difference in the general election,
Oh my
crazy,
god.
crazy.
That's in districts that are lean Republican. You might be able to flip
Yeah,
just from the enthusiasm. And you would think, like, you look at someone like El Sayed or even Mamdani in New York. If
yeah,
you're a party that wants to win nationally, you're like, spotlight, come on, push
yeah.
them in the spotlight. Hey, look how diverse we are, man. Look how energetic we are, man. Look at the coalitions we're building. That's exactly what you would do. Is you'd be like, man, more Mamdani. Like,
Yeah.
love this guy. You know, hey, can you come? Hey, man, can you show up for some of these? We need you to help some candidates.
Or at least,
They're
like,
not doing any of that.
they're not doing that, and, okay, it's like some congressional districts, valid. They're moderate, they want a moderate Democrat, whatever, that's fine. Don't bring El Sayed or Mamdani or AOC down there, I get it. But, like, let's have a little data crunching, let's figure it out, let's do some statewide race, focus groups, let's figure out what people actually want, because clearly they are reacting to and acting right on these progressive candidates, and yet the Democrats' sort of response is backing away from success. I mean,
Yep.
my dear friend Jane Ruby, who's the president of League of Women Voters Chicago, said, and I try to repeat this as much as I can, Democrats are really good at losing and then fundraising off that losing. Like,
Yes,
that's
they are.
this model. And we're seeing that, in full force right now in not embracing the people who actually want to win, the people who actually want to fight, the people who actually want to do something, and constantly retreating from the front lines, which is exactly where we want and need them to be. It is
Yep.
beyond absurd, and you know, oh my God, Fred, did you see that Politico headline? I think you wrote about this as well. But after El Sayed won by, it ended up being quite definitive 3.5% or more.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, when it was only at 2 or 1.5 when they called the race, Politico was like, "Oh, progressives disappointed by the, yeah, by their non-decisive victory." And I'm like, "Victory is victory. We won. That's decisive."
I'd say, wow. Did you talk to actual progressives or to progressives?
Progressives.
Who did you talk to? Because
I think they talked to ChatGPT about that. They're like, "How do we spin this?"
you know what's funny is this is a little colorful, but it was like in organizing circles in sort of red districts.
Yeah.
It was one of the things that was going around. So in '08, you can this call happened in Gate City, Virginia, which was a stone's throw from where I used to live.
Mm,
And it was a national polling call back with, and they were calling into that area, and it was a pollster saying, "Hey, who are you going to vote for? Are you going to vote for McCain or Obama? And, we'd like to da da da." And the guy stops him and says, "Let me save your breath there, son. I'm voting for the N word." Right. And that was it. Right. And the audio got out and it started making the rounds in progressive circles and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of that was, it was this understanding that when things got really, really bad, like
yeah,
economic reality trumps all this other crap,
yeah,
right? El Sayed is talking, and he's about a voter he's talking to, like he had
mhm,
talked to, and this is on his Instagram,
mhm,
and he said, "So I was talking to this guy, and he comes up to me, and he says, 'I don't like you, but I'm going to vote for you anyway.'"
mhm,
And so I said, "Okay, so what specifically do you not like about me?" He says, "I'm not going to get into all that." He says, "But I'm getting screwed on my health care and I'm getting screwed on this. So I don't know a whole bunch about this Medicare for all, but it's better than what I got. So I'm voting for you."
yeah,
And he said, "Well, you don't have to like me personally." He said, "But I do appreciate your vote." And so and then he went in and started talking about basically his position on Medicare for all. Cause a guy literally wrote a book titled Medicare for
yeah,
All.
for all, yeah,
Right. And it's, I, I keep telling folks like, this election is going to be an anti-incumbent election you've never seen.
yeah,
Like yes, you are not going to have people leaving the MAGA cult. You are not going to have like officially. There's still going to be diehard Republicans.
sure.
Boy, when they get in that booth, they're going to hit that Democrat.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like, just one note on El Sayed, I saw him, talking to a bunch of old white women, okay? Like,
Yep.
probably most likely to vote Republican, yearbook award. And he was talking about Medicare for all, and he explained it in a way that I think was one of the
I saw.
best.
Yeah, I saw what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah,
I mean, he was like, "Look, people think that if you do Medicare for all, there's gonna be less for me. But me as a 41-year-old man, I am less likely to go to the hospital, but I'm still paying for this, right, with my tax dollars. I would rather my extra money go to an older person who needs the care than go into the back pocket of a CEO." And I think that really, like, that very simple explanation touched on both why it's important, why older voters would want Medicare for all, and why healthcare corporations do not want Medicare for all. He
exactly.
really just crystallized it in one sentence. And the power of that capacity to communicate to voters across political lines that he has and that a number of other, of these insurgent, progressives have are win or lose, they're changing the political landscape fundamentally for
Yeah.
generations.
No. Yeah. I mean, I personally don't like on a personal level El Sayed. I don't like him. Uh, as you know, my masculinity is very fragile, and to
Yeah.
see a
Oh,
guy who's handsome and physically fit and double doctorate and
yeah.
just charismatic as hell.
And cute as a button, Fred. Cute
I
as a
know, and I mean, I start to feel, you know, diminished. And, that's hard for me,
I know. Yeah.
because I mean, my masculinity is brittle like wet tissue paper.
But I
No,
saw
I
that you
actually do like him a
did.
lot. I think he's pretty
I know
awesome.
you do, but I did
Yeah.
saw that you had your personal accomplishment of, like, lifting several 100 pounds, and I'm like,
Oh,
"What?
yeah.
Uh, how is
Oh,
that
see,
possible?"
I hear his story and I'm just like amazed by this guy. I'm just
Yeah.
like double doctorate, like all this stuff. And he's like, and he's into fitness and he's very masculine, but he's also very like he's such a positive masculine figure.
Yes.
And I love
Yeah.
this guy. I mean, it's just I see how he answers and distills down.
Mm.
I'm starting to feel I like James Tallarico more the more I see every time I see that guy talk, I like him more.
I
You
just
know,
I like him. I think he's great. I mean
I saw him on the Breakfast Club, and he
mm,
was breaking down the ban on THC in Texas
yeah.
and how that's gonna impact folks. And what I liked about him is, like, Tallarico's kinda buttoned up, he's a little stiff and, but he's stiff but casual, right? He's got the suit and he sits up very properly, but he kinda casually talks and he's got, like, this n he's kinda like Obama in that way, where Obama kinda had this more, like, formal air, but also casual at the same time, like it was this very professionally approachable demeanor,
Yeah. I
and
think
and
James Tallarico is a nerd. I think
No,
he's
yeah, he
yeah,
is, and I
yeah.
like that about him, you
Right.
know? And he said one thing, like, very, very like, I loved hearing him say it, and this is absolutely what you wanna hear from a Texas politician,
Mm.
which was the first thing Democrats need to do if we take back the Senate is pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. I was like,
Yeah, really.
"Yes." That
Yeah.
was the failure, was one of the big, big failures from the Biden administration.
Yeah.
That like, because if you don't have voting,
Mhm.
you don't have a democracy. If voting is not protected, then we're gonna keep getting fascism and oligarchy,
Of course. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
You can't outvote voter suppression. Like,
Right.
it's very, very difficult, and
Well, and
so
also it's just like voter suppression is built into the system that we have right now, and it's
yeah.
actually it's a testament. I'm not gonna say it's miraculous. It's a testament to the grit and, just, how do you say, perspicacity of particularly minority voters who have continued to show up and vote, to wait in those lines, to know that their votes are, more likely to be counted out, to know that at the end of that 3-hour, 4-hour line, they might get up to the registration and say, "Oh, your name actually isn't on the rolls anymore because Greg Abbott or Brian Kemp took you off the rolls," or what have you. That they just keep showing up, and it's, to them that, of course, we owe the that we were required to pass the John Lewis Voting Act. I would also say that James Tallarico has endorsed Mary Pelotas, who's amazing, and he's running for Senate in Alaska.
No, yeah.
He proposed a 12-year term limit on Congress members, which I completely agree with. And she said, if you
Mhm.
can't get it done in 12 years, you're not going to get it done. It's a good amount of time to make sure that you know what you're doing, right? Because that's 6 congressional terms. You know what you're
Yep.
doing. Get on a good committee. You can learn. That's a full decade of experience. You should be mentoring someone else in that time to take your place, or at least mentoring your staffers to help that next person really hit the ground running. But I do. We have to fundamentally change the way we do politics in this country if we're going to keep our democracy, because it's a system that has been designed since 250 years ago to suppress people's voices, and that
Yeah.
just has to change if we're gonna.
Well, yeah. I mean, you think about it, I mean, when it was founded, what was the average life expectancy of somebody, like,
40.
living back yeah, it was 40, and then even in the 50s, the
Yep.
1950s, it was, like, 60,
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
for rich white folks, it was probably 70, but still.
well, I mean, even with heart disease and everything else, it was
Yeah.
still, like, 62. I mean, it was 60 and then it started to creep up as, like, because modern medicine, we all think it's like, "Oh, we got it in the 1950s." It's like, "No, like,
Yeah.
like even bone density scanning was what in the late 70s, early 80s when they were able to find most of the cancers,
Mhm.
right? So like modern medicine has grown in leaps and bounds, but it's been really in this close to the end of the last century and into this one where it's creeped up. And you've got congressional folks that have the money and everything else to get some of the best and the most cutting it, which we saw with Trump, who, when he got COVID, oh, he got all the fun stuff, right?
Girl, I was just really hoping for a different outcome. Let's just be honest. We were staying at my
Man,
mom.
I was remember when he went out to the what was it, the portico or whatever,
Yeah.
and he was standing there and because he had his little Napoleon moment and he's standing there and he's huffing and puffing and I'm just like, is it going to give out? Is it
It's
going to
good.
give out? Come on, give out now. And then he went back inside. I was like, damn,
Yeah.
like, could have got
Take a
us
shot.
you could have got us a dang present on national television.
Oh
You know,
my
I was
gosh.
hoping for timber, like Looney Tunes. I was like, dang it.
So close.
I was like, dang you, reality.
Uh,
Oh man. On a side note, did you see what reality threw at us yesterday with Eric Swalwell and Katie Miller?
oh my gosh.
Girl,
No, thank you.
girl,
No, thank you. What is
girl,
this? Yeah, like, what is this reality? Like, what is this weird Love Island that apparently the politicians live on? I mean,
girl.
let's
I mean, remember Kimberly Guilfoyle dated what's the name? Gavin Newsom first when she looked
oh, no,
normal.
girl, they didn't date, they were married.
Oh, that's right. They were married. They were married. And and then it's like she looked normal.
She looked normal.
She looked normal back then, and then all of a sudden go to Trump, it's like, oh, good God, they got you, you
Yeah.
know. And then, did you hear the rest of it though with the Chinese operative with Eric Swalwell? Did you hear that part?
No.
I got some tea. So apparently, so this
I
is
was on a
why
plane yesterday. Oh my god.
this is why it came out now. Okay, so apparently Eric Swalwell used his previous relationship with Katie Miller
Okay.
to help convince Kash Patel to drop an investigation into a Chinese intelligence operative named codenamed Fang Fang, because she's
Okay.
Dr. Fang or whatever. So they call her Fang Fang. And I was like, and I made a quick little joke video. I said, reality, you can't do this to me on a Thursday night now.
No.
Fang Fang, what am I supposed to do with this? What am I supposed to do with this? I can't.
Yeah, we have to make a manga that's a manga cartoon. I was just
Fang Fang.
watching,
I mean, it's like,
yeah,
and you know what it was? He was messing around with Fang Fang because it's a woman. That's what it is. You
it's
know
what
that's
it is
what it is.
for.
I mean, as much as that dude was catting around and abusing women and all that,
Yeah.
he's like, he was sitting there like Chinese government said, here you are, here's a honey pot. And they said, oh,
Yeah, it's
he,
Fang
he
Fang
was
a
like
honey
Winnie the
pot.
Pooh. He's just sticking his hands and everything in it. You know,
Can't help it. Oh, do you have any honey?
but
Yeah.
Fang Fang, he got that Chinese honey now. That's
Oh
what
my,
it is.
what's gonna happen to him? Is he gonna go to jail now?
Given this DOJ, probably not. They're just,
Probably not.
they're
Pro
probably like, oh, that's not even a misdemeanor. you
Right.
know,
But they're probably like, and then Stephen Miller got in that honey pot also.
Dude, hey, here's what I said about that. How messed up was freaking Eric Swalwell for her to go to Stephen Miller?
I know.
Girl, she went to him next. She
Yeah.
like usually you get out of a bad relationship, you go to the soft landing, right?
Or it's like, yeah, it's either soft landing or, horizontal, right? It's
Right.
same or better, but no. Yeah.
And
Well,
here's the other thing I said too, because I mean, you know that baby she's carrying is Elon Musk now. That ain't Stevens.
how do you know that?
Well, look at him. Look at
Okay.
Stevens. You know he's into that cuckold stuff.
I
Just look
love
at him. That's why
I
he's mad
love
all the
that
time.
we've just completely gone to, like, Gossip Girl
Yeah. Well,
politics. I'm here for it.
what? I mean, look at him. That's why he's mad at all them other folks all the time, and he's a virulent racist because it's
Yeah.
like I keep saying, bro, if you're into that, it's okay. You know, don't take it out on everybody else. You know, but it's like, I mean, think about it. She was working closely with Elon
Oh,
and
no,
for
they
like,
were totally together. I thought it was, like, well known that they were having an
yeah,
affair.
exactly. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden she comes back to her husband and like I said, I'm from
Oh
East
my
Tennessee.
god,
I'm
yeah.
from East Tennessee. I know how this works. I know how this works. You know,
You know who
you
I
know how
feel real
many times, man. Okay, like
bad.
there's a guy in East Tennessee, right? Older guy that's one of these like slick. His name's Grindstaff, right?
Okay. Sure.
And he owned a whole bunch of these car dealerships, and he was a notorious asshole womanizer. And he used to get on the public access TV, right?
Mhm.
And it would be his young blonde wife who was like 40 years his junior
Right.
that was his like the receptionist at the front. So it's like his
Of course. Where else
whatever
that's
wife he was
like
on. And
used
he'd
car
sit there in
salesmen,
the
that's where they find their wives, yeah.
yeah, he'd sit there in the 1980s, like big black sunglasses with the gold on the sides, the Gucci glasses. And he's just sitting there in the leather coat and she's babbling, "We got these great cars, y'all. Come on down and get you a good deal." It's like, "I'm Lindsey Grimes," whatever her name was. "I'm Lindsey Grindstaff. And, you'll see me out there. You just come on, say hi." I'm like, so I've seen this. I know what this is. I done saw, I was like, and you know what? Since we gossiping, that's why he didn't put himself in front of that. And remember when the shooter was in the thing
Yeah.
and they had
Oh,
the
that's
picture of
right,
him?
it wasn't his baby. He was like,
Yeah.
Elon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he didn't jump in front of it. I mean, not that he would anyway, because he's not that brave of a man. But that's just
Yeah,
one more reason he's like, "Oh, this ain't mine." You
right,
know,
yeah.
I'm
Oh,
sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I had to say it.
no,
I
you
mean,
I mean, it's like, but it's true, right? Like, character is a, factor in how a leader will represent their constituents or the people.
yep.
And that is the argument, of course, that the GOP made for generations, that they were the party of family values, ergo
Mhm.
they were the rightful ones to lead the country because they embodied, right, like, the spiritual morality. Well, it turns out that they're pedophiles, cuckolds, philanderers, R
Yep.
words, pedophile, like, on and on and on and on, and yet somehow, like, why did why didn't this change the trajectory of the party is because they always knew who they were because that's
Yeah.
who they were, and they just had this sort of cloak of lies that they were the party of family values, but now that it's in the open and they all sort of came out together as perverts,
Mhm.
they're fine with it because they're together in that, amorality, so they
Well,
don't need.
and yeah. And I mean, this is part of that. So, like, that white evangelical stuff. I mean, you remember like the Falwells, right? Like
Yeah,
Falwell
sure.
Jr.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like the junior came out like that, he was getting freaky with the pool boy or he was watching his wife get freaky with that one pool
Watching the
boy and
wife, then they also had a threesome with
yeah.
their babysitter,
Mhm.
and I believe and there was that wonderful picture that came out of him on their, like, crappy houseboat or whatever.
Yeah, and he had the weird
Yeah.
like his
Yeah.
pants pulled down or something or
Yes, yes.
yeah, and the thing is, I mean, there's a joke from my neck of the woods, right? It's an old religious joke, right? And it was Catholics don't recognize Martin Luther, right?
Mm,
And, it was like Catholics don't recognize Martin Luther, Jewish folks don't recognize, Jesus as, you know, the son of God,
yeah.
and Baptists don't recognize each other in the liquor store, right? And that and that's it,
Yeah,
is we all kinda knew the longest time all these preachers and all this other stuff and it was almost like you could script it, right? Same thing with Grindstaff. It's like, "Oh, he's messing around with that." The rumor would go around town. It's like, "Oh, he's messing around with his receptionist." It's like, "Oh, his wife drove into the dealership and raised a fuss, and, I got a cousin that works down there, and like,
right.
oh, what'd she say and what happened?" They went in the office and there's a whole
I
bunch
know,
of
but I
yellow.
got a good deal on my used car.
Right, yeah. It's like there's a bunch of yelling. It's like, well, he's going, and we'd say, well, he's about to get him another one. The joke is, he's trading her in,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and sure enough, here comes the younger wife.
right.
Older wife's out the door, you
Yeah,
know, and you just kind of shrug and go, well, yeah, that's who the guy is, you
yeah,
know.
that's the way it is.
If you buy a car from him, you damn sure better get every single damn thing in writing or that kind of thing, you know. And it's, and that's we kind of accepted that where it's like you'd have one preacher get caught messing around and, if it wasn't a boy or it wasn't a guy,
Right.
and he's messing around with some young gal, it's like, they'd all say, I've sinned and I've fallen short of the Lord. And they'd pop up at some other church, you
Yes.
know, like that one guy for what was it? Used to be Justin Bieber's preacher, like Windsong or whatever the heck it was. One of
Oh,
those
really?
new churches. You mean, what I'm talking about?
I know who
I can't
because
remember his name,
I'm
but
a
yeah,
believer,
he messed
so I'm
around.
but I didn't know that he messed around with a young woman.
Yeah, he was in it
So,
was in New York, and
mm,
he, messed around with, some woman he met, and she came forward about it,
mm.
and, he said, "Yeah, I've fallen short of the Lord, and I'm working it out with my wife," and his wife kept him, and I think he got caught messing around again,
Of course
you
he
know?
did. Of course he did. And again, like, it's okay if you wanna be in an open marriage, but be in an open marriage with someone who wants to be in an open marriage and have consensual relationships with age appropriate people. And don't try, of course, to inflict your morality on everyone else. And I do think we need to discuss the dearly departed, Senator Graham in this particular regard, insofar as right? There's no evidence yet that he uh preferred to be with men, and yet I think it's quite obvious to everyone with eyes that that was the case. And yet he had one of the most anti-LGBTQ um agendas of any senator in the United States, and was virulent about it, and just, like, rabid. And it's
Yeah,
because for whatever reason, it's almost pathetic how, um, banal it is to say this, but it's like, if you just accepted yourself, you would be so much happier. And
yeah,
unfortunately, this, like, chicken soup for the soul advice would really go a long way with a lot of these GOP politicians. Probably not chicken soup for the soul, that's probably some weird evangelical whatever, whatever, I never read it. But just these basic, buy it on a sign, uh, platitudes. If they would just read them and realize that they apply to their own life, we would not be in the mess that we're in.
yeah.
Although
Well,
I do say,
yeah, it's this fragility of that's the thing, man. It's the fragility of this, like I joked about with El Sayed. It's like
mm,
it's the fragility of this masculinity that Hegseth and all these people preach, right? Because it's based on comparison. It's based on, you being higher than, say, women or minorities or, people with different, sexual orientations or lifestyles,
yeah.
you know, and, it's like they reinforce that, and so it's like, oh, I want to be like, so if you're Lindsay, you're like, well, I'm up here.
Mhm,
I don't want to be down there with them. And they allow you to kind of get away with, because, but it leads to, because it's oppression
mhm,
and it's bigotry and it's objectification, all that, it leads to these horrible abuses. That's what leads you down the road to like, oh, I'm gonna have sex with a 14-year-old girl. Like the one thing Virginia Guffrey said about, or I'm gonna rape a 14-year-old. Like the one
yeah,
thing Virginia Guffrey said is that Prince Andrew viewed it as his right, as nobility, that
yes,
he gets to do that,
of
right?
course. Yeah,
Because he didn't view her as human. He viewed him as superior,
yeah.
and she's not, and like she's just a thing to be used.
Well, and I think that sense of superiority and entitlement of the nobility has been passed on to the billionaire class because
Mhm,
because they have it, they think they deserve it. And just
mhm,
like the nobility that whatever in England or France or whatever, they have those titles because in 1066, their ancestors more successfully raped and pillaged another village, right? And then they accrued more wealth. That's why they live in Buckingham Palace now, right? It's
Right.
not because they're better people. They were better at raping and pillaging than
Mhm.
others. And that's the same is true of billionaires. And yet we continue, I think, not only do billionaires accept or believe that they are superior because they have it, they have fooled the majority of the people, right, and continue to do so, just like the monarchical class, to make us believe that they deserve it because they have it, and therefore the laws don't apply to them. And
Yep.
again, like, I'll go back to Al Sayed and James Rico and Jasmine Crockett and AOC and Bernie Sanders and Mary Pelota and a lot of these politicians who are speaking really for the first time, I would say, since the progressive era in the
Mhm.
United States, to the fact that it is the billionaire class that is preventing us from living a free life. Like James Tallarico recently said, I thought this was a great line from whoever his speechwriter is. Billionaire class has put the American dream behind a paywall. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. And, I look at, my God, we are just, it's incremental, but I look at my family's bills, it's creeping up. I mean, it's getting hard. And luckily, we both just got new side hustles, but we got new side hustles. So now we're working even more just to make ends meet. We don't get to spend as much time with our kids. We're taking our first vacation and we're, in a long time and we're worried about making gas money. I'm like, do I have to cook every meal because we don't have money to go out? Can I, like, which is the cheapest canoe that I can rent? It's like these little decisions that honestly two people who work 60 hours a week and are good at what they do probably
Yeah.
shouldn't have to be making constantly. And why are we making them? Because billionaires just want more and more and more and more, and they don't wanna even look in the mirror to say, "I raped a 14-year-old girl." And it's, like, something's gotta give. And just, Fred, I wanna talk about you and I often meditate on this question of when is enough gonna be enough? When are these people who are under the thrall of Trumpism and the GOP and MAGA gonna crack?
Uh-oh.
That I did not expect, and it's through data centers.
Yeah.
Because these data centers are going out to these rural communities, and
Mhm.
they are absolutely what they're doing is inflicting environmental injustice on white rural populations in a way that Black and brown communities and indigenous communities have been experiencing for generations, but now
Mhm.
it's being inflicted on white rural communities in a way that they have never, ever even, I think, contemplated was possible. And I recently saw this video, these two, I believe, I wanna say they were Iowa farmers, but they, like, refuse to sell their land to the data centers, and they're like, "The revolution is starting now, and y'all better join because it's coming to your doorstep tomorrow." And, a lot of people are saying that this father and son, these farmers are heroes, and I'm like, "You also know that these people voted for Trump 3 times,
Mhm.
100%, and yet we have this opening, have this moment where we can put a wedge in there and maybe crack it open with a couple of these folks." I don't know.
Yeah,
What do you think?
the thing about it is one thing that I think the biggest misnomer people need to get over, and when you talk about politics, is that people are mostly rational
Mm,
and will listen to rational arguments. Most people are irrational, and not irrational as in insane, right? What I mean is they're led by emotions, they're led by, unexamined bigotries and preferences and fears and all these other things, right?
yeah,
And most of the time, you're not confronted with that stuff in your daily life. Most of the time, like you said, you work 60 hours a week, so does your husband. Most of your stuff is very immediate. Like, man, what am I going to make for dinner? Like, are we going to be
yeah,
able to pay? Like, what do I got to get done for this? What do I got to get done for that? You're not thinking of like, boy, the way we have structural inequality for, da, 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 unless you do it for a living, right?
right.
You know, but when it starts to bleed over
Mhm,
into, because what essentially they did with white supremacy was they built the suburbs, right?
right.
They've
Yeah.
walled off white America, essentially, from
100%.
dealing with the
And they
reality of the rest of it.
and they drew red lines around it so that
Yeah, they
black people
yeah,
couldn't come in.
absolutely, redlining,
Yeah,
right? So you
protect.
live in the suburbs and you have the mall and your kids go to decent schools and, yeah, that bad stuff in the inner city is there.
Yeah.
That's their problem, right? But our this is our America.
Mhm.
And what's happened is they've hollowed out the cities. They're done. And so going back to Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations, when he said the unencumbered market first devours everything around it and then it devours itself, white
Yeah,
supremacy is devouring itself.
devouring itself.
That's exactly what's happening. And so I said this, when we've talked about Roe v. Wade, when they got rid of that, I said, that's the first thing because now it's going to come for the young women of white women in the
Right.
suburbs,
Yeah,
right? That maybe can't afford to fly to freaking Mexico,
yeah,
or have a abortion vacation, and stay off the radar. At best, they can go to a blue state.
right.
And what are they doing now? It's with Todd Blanche, and part of what we're going to talk about is, oh, well, we're going to make a national abortion ban. We're going to spend like the new the one of the directors they're putting in for the CDC is like, well, preventing abortions is a public health concern, so we're going to track women, and that's
Yeah,
going to be our number one priority.
there
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, and also, they're starting to use and, my dear friend Lauren Kari, who writes, Southeast Social Justice Reproductive, Report, talked about how they're using flock cameras to
Mhm.
track women. A sheriff's department tracked a woman who was driving out of state to get an abortion. They tracked her with flock cameras because it was illegal to do so in that state. I think it was Missouri, I could be wrong. But, I mean, it is not the beginning of, it's, the police state manifest, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
For bodies in particular. And you don't just deconstruct that, um, through, I would say, again, going back to this corporate Democrat, um, tactics and strategy of incrementalism. I mean, you gotta be, Alexander the Great, with your, sword and cut the Gordian knot. No, truly, just
Yeah, no, I love the reference.
I know
Yeah.
you do, I did it for you.
Yeah, thank you. That's why I was laughing, I was like, "Okay, yeah, alright." I love a classicist reference, it's great, you
You
know?
know, we have to find time to go see The Odyssey. Have you seen it? This is a departure, but
I
you'll
haven't seen it yet, I've read it and,
well, duh.
yeah, I've read it, and I mean, I'll see it when it comes out, like, I have my own
Oh, you're not gonna do the IMAX? Okay.
me and Nolan are kinda, I don't wanna get into it, I'm not a
We'll
huge Nolan.
offline about this. I wanna know. Okay.
Oh, I'm just not a huge Nolan fan, you know? Um, that's really it. Sadly, the one that I really did like was the one in the '90s with Armand Assante, who
What
did
what's
The
that?
Odyssey. It was a
Oh,
made
oh,
for
Odyssey.
TV.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was a made for TV thing, and Armand Assante was, Odysseus,
Oh, okay.
and I think it's not Angelica Houston, but it was somebody else played Minerva, but it was actually really, really good for, like, a made for TV movie,
Hey,
or
don't
like
just
a
make
series, a
TV
miniseries.
series. I mean, the best Moby Dick was, like, with Patrick Stewart, made for TV.
Oh god, that was so
That.
good.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
good. I'm gonna
Uh,
rewatch that.
there
Okay.
was oh my dude, there was a I wish I could find this. Um, it was a National Geographic, when they were doing back when it was all the rage to do sort of like the history, but then they would do like the reenactors with actors, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if you're familiar with this guy's work, but James
Mm.
Purfoy was frickin' Blackbeard, and he just ate every scene he was in, and he was frickin' terrifying, and it was amazing, right? And I've been searching for it, I'm like, I Google every once or I do YouTube every once in a while, I was like, "Surely to God somebody's put this up." Like, I'm wondering at this point, like, was it Mandela effect? Did I see this for real? Like, Or am I imagining this, you know?
There is a new, and I forget the name of it, maybe somebody can put it in the chat, but there's this new service that public libraries are doing where they're uploading all their DVDs and VHSs to stream, and I
Yes.
bet you could find it there.
Oh,
Uh,
man. You know how, like, I had a public library, they had on VHS, Sharp's Rifles. That was with, God, uh, I'm trying to remember him, and, he's a famous English actor that always gets killed,
oh.
right? And it's like the joke is like, oh, he's like, it's Sean something, and I'm blanking on his name. But, like, he was so, like, it was back when A&E would make, like, these sort of, age of sale stuff, and one of them was Sharp's Rifles.
Uh-huh.
And so he was a British command like, he was like, an Irish guy who rose to the rank of general. It's one of those things, like, Horatio Hornblower, who
Right,
Eon Gufford was. He was
mhm,
Horatio Hornblower in an A&E, which I have the DVDs of.
of course.
This is how you know I'm a nerd, 'cause it's just like, "Oh, it's the age of sail." And it's like, I read all the books, you
Yeah.
know? And so, but yeah, no, if they do, there's so much good stuff. There's gonna be
Yeah,
so much good stuff.
yeah,
Like,
and
that's so awesome,
I'm really
you know?
excited about it just for, like, my kids because, just being able to rent, like, old DVDs of, oh my god, okay, we won't get into it, we'll talk about it later. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right. That's
But
good.
no, but no, it's like, so yeah, Lynette pointed out, so it was in Texas, it was the 83,000 flock cameras,
Oh, it was
and
in
then, of course, yeah, so it's like,
Ugh,
but here's the but, no, I think the reason you're mentioning Missouri is because on this last one, there was the ballot initiatives to ban abortion,
mhm.
and that was in Missouri and Kansas, and the people rejected
They
both of
both
them.
rejected it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, and it's but, Missouri was also the one that did I think it might have been, like, sick leave or something else, and, the voters were like, "No, we want this," and their, state legislator said, "Well, you voted for it, but too bad. Go screw
Yeah.
yourself."
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Also, for anybody who's curious about what's going in Missouri, I would follow Jess Piper, who is an incredible activist down there, and it's just like, you know, people again, going back to what we were talking about before, people in red states, you know, I'm not excusing that they voted for Trump, but what we do need to realize is that Trump and MAGA promised change and no one else is talking to them, right?
Mhm.
Like corporate Democrats as usual, just ceded that territory and decided not to fight for it because they thought they didn't need it and didn't want to do that difficult work of grassroots organizing. And so now we have just this echo chamber in these red states, but those folks, clearly, when they have the opportunity to vote on these things, they don't actually want the policy that MAGA is trying to impose upon them.
No.
Women do want the possibility to have an abortion, like, just, if they don't want a pregnancy, and definitely if their life is in danger from the pregnancy that they're carrying. Um, they do want paid sick leave, and they don't want data centers literally in their backyards. But, it actually takes someone who's willing to go out and talk to these folks and present a different plan and find, just one point of conversation. And I think, I often go back to this, and I know it's like, okay, so I was just in Cincinnati, um, at the Mercantile Library, which is an amazing place. Speaking of red states, right? How did Ohio get so red so fast? But that's neither here nor there. But someone asked me, I was talking about my book on Jeanette Rankin, who was the first woman elected to Congress in 1916 in Montana. And what she was really good at doing was talking to different constituencies and building, right, these coalitions, these diverse coalitions. And someone asked me, like, what she would be doing now, and I said, I think, and that question evolves, right, as the moment evolves, and I think what she would be doing now is actually going out to these communities, as we're seeing progressives do, and talking to these communities that voted for Trump, that wanted change, that need change, that know something is wrong, and trying to find inroads there. And I actually felt quite bad that I said this, right? Because I think there's this idea of, we have to just like let these people go, put our energies elsewhere. And I get that impulse. But then this Black woman came up to me after the talk, and she got my book, and we were chatting a bit. And I realized and she said she asked me who was Jeanette's Black ally, in her journey. And I spoke about Mary Church Terrell, who was this incredible Black, feminist and suffragist. And Jeanette has actually espoused on the floor of Congress incredibly racist, notions about, why white women should get the right to vote. And it was the suffragist, the racist math was that if white women were enfranchised, they would outnumber Black men and women, and therefore really discount their vote. And the idea was white women would vote with their husbands, right? And Jeanette said this on the floor of Congress. This is true.
Mhm.
It's problematic. You can't erase that. But Mary Church Terrell really explained to her why this was stupid, why this was racist, and why this was counter to her, notion of her own notion of democracy, right? And you look at how many generations of Black women have reached out to white women when they knew that they would be disregarded, when they knew that they would be let down, when they knew they would be absolutely shoved off a cliff, but they did it anyway. And I think in this moment, if we are to truly honor and respect that tradition, we actually do continue need to reach out to these communities that have just been left behind and exploited. And we can be mad and we can be upset, and rightfully so, and we can recognize their bigotry and all of that. But there is also possibility there. And I know it's not popular to say, but folks who are organizing, I'm really grateful for folks who are organizing in these rural communities. It's difficult work, but it's important.
Yeah, no, I mean, I did it in First District of East Tennessee.
Mm,
And the crazy thing to think about it, man, is like, you know, you're not gonna get perfect allies. Like that's one of the sort of misnomers that we run into in this social media environment, right? Like for those of us who are kind of perennially online,
mhm,
it's, you know, you say something and it'll be like, where I might be talking about an issue that's important to black folks, right?
right.
And then someone will come along and say, "Well, you didn't capitalize black, so you're being disrespectful." And it's all these little picadillos and that kind of stuff. And instead of like, "Well, did you read my message of what I'm actually trying to say?"
Right.
Right? And the thing is, like, you're gonna have people that are not where you are
Yeah.
all the way, and you're going to have people that still need to evolve on a host of issues. Like, I didn't wake up one day and suddenly become like, feminist supporting progressive socialist guy. I did.
Yeah.
I had views one at a time
Mhm.
that evolved. I actually the last view I could think of that went left was was the Second Amendment. I was a staunch
Mhm.
Second Amendment guy.
Mhm.
I used to carry like a pistol in my car in East Tennessee. I was because I'm a former Marine. I knew how to handle it and this and that and everything else. And it wasn't until, and I wrote about one of the first articles I had that went to national attention was I was driving along after like an 18-hour shift and I was dead tired, but I was going home and I saw a car almost run into me and I jolted awake and almost ran into because I was going over an overpass, almost ran into a concrete embankment, because I swerved and I
Sure.
mean, a hair's breadth from getting in a wreck. And I look over and it's these three fucking jackass teenagers laughing at me and flipping me off and swerving back into me. And I saw red and reached down and clack, clack, because my heart's racing, my adrenaline had dumped, and like that fight or flight reflex kicked in.
Yeah.
And those boys saw the gun and they're like, "Ah!" And I chased them for like about a mile and a half. And I was ready to freaking unload into that car. And finally the dull noise in the back of my head screaming was, "Stop!
Yeah.
What are you doing?" Went home, I'm shaking, like, I mean, I couldn't go to bed that night.
Yeah.
Called in to work next day and, and my wife asked me what happened, and I told her and she says, "I'm gonna go to the car and I'm gonna get your gun. You're not gonna carry it anymore." I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
And after that, and it was like I said, "Man, if I'm a guy who I consider well trained
Yeah.
and is a good guy,
Right.
and would never and I almost lost it."
Yeah.
And I wrote about it, right? It was the one with this guy named Curtis something. He was a Shortly after that incident, there was a incident with a guy who was a retired police chief in Florida,
Mhm.
and he was a firearm instructor still at the police department. And he was at a theater and he got into an argument with a couple, and the guy it got heated, dumped popcorn on his head, and he pulled out his pistol and blew them both away. Right.
Mhm.
And I wrote about it and I wrote about my experience and I said, there are no good guys with guns
Yeah.
because you in a moment could get pissed off and snatch somebody's life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why nobody should carry weapons.
Right.
Because, and I say all that because I changed my views and I
Mhm.
changed my view on that one. And I was the Second Amendment and let me quote the founding fathers I was that guy.
Right.
But I had something happen to me
Mhm.
personally that changed my view. And what you're seeing in Iowa and all these other places is something has directly impacted them.
Right.
And it's like, oh, I was freaking wrong
Mhm.
on this thing.
Right.
I'm not suddenly going to be like, well, let me read bell hooks and let me do this and that's not how
You
this works, right?
but you are gonna say, "What else could I have been wrong on?" And if you don't have anyone who is talking to you, there's
Yeah.
gonna be silence. But if you have folks who are reaching out in the community, then that's where you can right, in these moments in these little moments of change, that's where you can build bigger, revolutions and rebellions and the larger scope of change. And I would just wanna go back to Jeanette Rankin. She would go and plant these seeds of democracy all
Mhm.
over, America, all over the people that she talked to, not only about her congressional campaign about women's suffrage. And, it takes time for those things to grow, but
Mhm.
I think we're seeing not only hers, but so many other people, right, starting, with the progressive movement that I think, got kickstarted again in 2016, right, with the unfortunate but in 2008 with Obama. But anyway, we're seeing this, like, the seeds of the change that we've planted, starting to come to fruition now.
Mhm.
But we'll see. I mean, I guess I have to go soon, Fred, but I'm curious to know how you're feeling about the midterms, both in regard to, uh, the chance for Democrats to take back Congress and the Senate, but also in regard to, the Trump administration's attempts to, interfere with the elections, um,
Mhm.
in regard to both saying, like, firing all the cybersecurity experts and saying that our, elections are under threat from cyber attacks, right? Like, you're quite the prognosticator, so I'm just curious, like, what's your take? What do you think what's gonna shake out? Because we're
I think that
whatever.
I think if there's a dirty trick that they can, I mean, you saw that with the EO with like where Stephen Miller said, "Oh, well, we're just expanding the definition of who's an illegal alien. We're not taking away birthright citizenship." So they will try every single dirty, underhanded tactic
Mhm.
they could possibly get away with, right? But I haven't because they know, given what history is and what's happening now,
Yeah.
history's typically shows midterms are anti-incumbent. There's only
Mhm.
been like twice, I think, in American history where the residing president's party gained seats. One was like World War II, and the other one was like 2002 with Bush right after 9/11.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So you already have a built-in anti-incumbent thing. Then you add in everything else that's happened. And the fact that a lot of people are on high alert for this kind of thing where they're gonna turn out, right? Like I've said on some other stuff where they're gonna put ice at polling places. I'm like, I hope they do,
Yeah.
because that will get people to be like, oh, ice is here. Oh man, now I gotta vote. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, bro, get down here. It's like, yeah, but I'm at work, man. I can't vote. No, 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 no. You need to come down here right now.
Yeah.
And they'll, because it'll give them a reason, like visually, right? Oh, they're trying to take something away from me. I mean, F you, I'm coming down here. So, I think that they're going to try to intimidate people. They're going to try to make you think your vote doesn't matter, right? And I think the Democrats are going to do very, very well in spite of the corporate Democrats' efforts to not do very well.
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen afterwards is going to be, and this is where you're seeing this from the corporate Democrats, is when they take back, they're going to take the House most likely. And if
Mhm.
they take the Senate and they have Congress, you're going to have guys like James Tellerico and El Said and even John Ossoff and these others that have kind of been in the wings waiting, that are going to have more support, and your AOCs and and all these other people that are going to say, okay, we want to dictate where we're going. We at least want to say, where you
Mhm.
kind of shoved us over here and demanded our votes and we didn't get one. Now we want one,
Yeah.
you know, because they know it's like probably nothing's going to pass. So why not fight for your vision of the future?
Mhm.
So why not fight for Medicare for all? Why not vote on it and stick it to Trump and say, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not signing this. Great. We now
Right.
have our platform for 2028.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that
But
housing bill that he's not signing.
correct. And so, you're going to have 2026 and 2028 if the Democrats are smart.
Mhm.
And we might get enough smart ones in that have won their primaries. It looks like we do. It's going to be an ideological contrast.
Yeah.
And that might swing even bigger in 2028. I'm hoping that's what it'll be. But if they get in, like, if Chuck Schumer's and everyone else is kind of quiet and they go, well, we've got to work with the president. And if they do that crap,
Yeah. Well, I also think, there's this 30% rule, right? When you get 30% of representation, that's when your voice really starts to matter. And I think we're at definitely that point. If the progressives who won their primaries in uh, predominantly blue districts get then elected, which I think most, if not all of them will, then we're going to have a 30% progressive Democratic caucus in Congress. And I think we
hmm
are going to see a lot of this push that there are no longer a minority that can be ignored or completely controlled. Um, and then you are also going to see, I think, and I don't want to be overly optimistic, but right, these politicians, these corporate politicians, a lot of them who aren't the leaders but are just sort of the rank and file, they go where they're told and they
hmm
do what they have to do to stay elected. So if they see, right, that if leaders we deserve and run for something and emerge are creating candidates who would challenge ineffective incumbents, who just vote with the Republicans or vote for this corporate centrist um, platform, they will, for
they'll start shifting.
self-preservation, start shifting. And
hmm
so I just think out of this, necessity of self-preservation, that's why I have a certain degree of optimism when it comes to
Yeah.
uh, the Democrats actually being effective as a caucus after this midterm election, if the results are counted and abided by. Um, we'll see. We'll see.
What's kind of fascinating to me, and again, this is a very anecdotal thing, and then I'll let you go,
Mm.
is so that House race in Michigan where the one Republican dropped out and then Trump supported the crazier one, right?
Yeah.
And then the crazier one ended up losing, and the guy who dropped out won the primary. You know, I'm kind of curious with Trump's approval rating and everything that looks like, because I'm kind of wondering the way things are starting to come apart at the seams. are we going to have like another '08 crash right before the midterms? Like, I don't know. But the way things, even with affordability being where it's at, because gas has shifted either 10 cents or 20 cents 5 times in the last 2 weeks up and down in my area.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy. It's gone
I
up
feel
and
bad for
down.
the people who work at the gas station. They're constantly having to change all the things, not just the cents, the dollars. It's $5.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I mean, I saw it go from like 3.79 and then, 4 days later it was 4.13 and then it dropped to like 3.97 and it was like doot 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 doot. I'm like, and I jokingly, because I'm the guy who fills up once because I don't travel too far. I travel in town,
Mhm.
and so it's like I probably get like I wait till it runs to E and then I gas up, just out of convenience. And I jokingly keep saying, "Well, I mistimed the market on
Yeah.
petrol stock." You
Yeah,
know.
but even the volatility is so disconcerting for folks, you know what I mean? Like, "Oh, is it gonna get higher or is it gonna get lower? Should I wait? Should I buy it now?" And that's like, because we have a minivan, of course we do, I'm 80s mom. Um, and, the difference is 75 and $100 to
Yeah.
fill the tank. That's $25. That's a significant amount of money, and that's for me and for most, I would say, middle-class American families.
That is probably milk and cereal at least for a week or
We
2.
Yeah,
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 for your kids.
exactly. And that's meaningful. So, this extra added stress is just absolutely, becoming insane. I think we're all in this v unnecessary pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And it's gonna blow, and he said, "Is there gonna be a 2008 style crash?" And, we'll see. I think also, and this is a different conversation, but Wall Street is so divorced from Main Street at this point, and it never has been the same thing, but it's becoming, less and less connected, right? Um, and, there might well be a crash on Main Street, and
So
Wall
they did so here's
Street.
the bad news, and then I'll
Mm,
let you go. Like,
yeah.
so they just let out the numbers
I saw this,
for
25
last month.
jobs lost.
Yeah. Well, they just also revised, down June and May at both combined over 100,000 job loss, right? So we have a softening labor market, and I can't remember, it was Andrew Lankage, like one of the guys I follow, Andrew some starts with a L.
Mhm.
Um, One of the major real estate holding companies just announced for Q2 a 45 like a major loss in profitability, and they have dropped, it was like a 45% drop off, the largest in their hit corporate history.
That's a cliff. That's a cliff.
And I've seen more companies posting loss after loss after loss, and I'm like, this seems familiar.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, the volatility in the market. And then suddenly all these real estate holding companies and all these started going, and the job market's starting to soften. It's like, I've seen this.
I would
I know
just
what this
say
is.
like, I know it's not gonna solve everything, but, people are always like, "What can you do? What can you do?" I recently saw, I don't remember the name of the journalist, but he was on the Jon Stewart show, and he was talking about how, companies like Amazon, they're using AI to change the prices, right? So, like, if you look at, you know, whatever, a pair of sandals online, and my husband looks at the same ones, you 2 are gonna get different prices based on your credit score, where you are, your purchasing history, and I'm like, I am done buying stuff online. If I don't
Yep.
need to buy it online, I am buying it in the store because that has one price and I know what it is. And it also supports your local economy. It supports people working in your town, not, some corporation who's using a robot to put it in a box. Like, if Wall Street is leaving us behind, we have to reinvest in Main Street. And so, to whatever degree that you can buy in it, it's okay if it's a chain. Like, we don't all have the capacity to go to a mom and pop grocery store. Some of us
Right. Yeah.
Walmart, but just go to the store as much as you can and
Mhm.
invest in the people who are working in your town and invest your dollars when you can in local businesses because it is like it is the difference. Local economies
Yeah.
are
I
where
mean,
we
it's
have power.
the f the funny thing is it's gonna bite them in the ass because 'cause they're literally creating demand destruction. That's what you're talking about,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, because instead of like, because when you buy for convenience, man, you tend to overspend, you know? And when you're not buying convenience and you have to actually go, you tend to pinch your pennies, and so it's like all these smart guys that came up with all dynamic surge pricing and freaking lean and mean staffing when I was working, it's like, it's just, "Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know what happened." You're freaking greedy moron, that's what happened.
Well, look at and then I have to go. I know I've been saying this forever, but I love talking to you. But look at Netflix. I mean, they basically created this business model that was based on this instant rush of dopamine from binging episodes and then talking about them the day of. But then, right, the next series, the next season doesn't come out for 2 or 3 years, and you don't know when it comes out, and you don't know why it's coming out then, and you wonder why they're seeing 40, 50, 60, 70% drop-offs in viewership from season 1 to season 2. It's
Mhm.
because you didn't create a sustainable model. You created a business model on binging, and
Yep.
so that's what you're gonna get back. And, at the same time, like, we all bought into it to a
Mhm.
large degree. Like, I am big on personal responsibility. I take responsibility when I make a mistake, and I try to change my behavior. Like, we need to reset, get offline. I mean, thank you all for being here. I love that you're here. But, stop allowing ourselves to be dictated by these corporate tech oligarchs and get back into our communities because that's where we have power and not only power but also like joy and friendship and community and meaning.
I'm thinking about what you just said, and I'll let you go. It's like, so you realize you're wrong, and then you change your behavior?
Yes.
It must
Yes.
be a woman thing, because like, I'm unfamiliar with this. This doesn't make it doesn't really make any sense to me as a man. No.
Fred, I know that's not true. You're the best. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Fred. I always love chatting with you. Okay.
Same, same. I appreciate you. You all, thank you for showing up. I'll catch you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.